After discovering a hidden treasure in the city, an orphan girl becomes a legendary royal warrior to save the future king's life. Hello, I'm NodeHat, and today we're going to recap the story of the movie Pill's adventures. It's recap time. An animal goes into town and finds an old beet to eat. Then it notices other animals passing by carrying a juicy piece of meat, so it follows them. The animal goes to a cart where it tries to get the food, but ends up being knocked over by the vehicle's wheel. It climbs a giant statue, where the little one tries hard to climb. At the top, a child is waiting for them, welcoming the newcomer to be his friend. Leah, Bombom, and Floquinho name the new member of the group Glutton, because he swallows the meat sausage in just one bite. Soon after, they see Tristan, the Regent King, who will rule until Prince Rolando is old enough to take the throne. The future king also shows off by skillfully destroying a training dummy using his sharp sword. The girl jumps off the statue with ease, while carrying Gulos on her back. Then she grabs a flag and jumps onto the roof of a house, but the animal hits a bell and falls to the ground. Crowbar is a guard who always leaves food on top of a trap to catch the girl and her friends. Believing it to be a fairy, one of the animals strikes with a shovel, and without the man realizing it, the young woman steals the food. Then the guy starts running after her. However, Floquinho knocks over a plate, making him fall to the ground. Then the horse kicks him and the girl takes the opportunity to run away. At the same moment, Lord Tristan appears and draws the attention of the guard, who claims that a fairy is stealing the pies. Crowbar ends up falling into a hole and a dog drenches him. While Leah and her companions are sharing their lunch, the girl hears voices and realizes that there are several children playing nearby. She helps them retrieve the ball that has been thrown too high. However, an adult appears and prevents the youngsters from approaching the fairy. The Regent King has no intention of handing over the throne to Rolando, and is caught unawares in his chambers, destroying a roast chicken he imagined to be the prince. On the 20th birthday of the heir to the throne, the nobility organizes the great coronation banquet, inviting all the local citizens. The girl pretends to be a man and enters the castle grounds, so she and her friends take the opportunity to eat everything they can. At the event, musicians and jugglers begin to enter, until one of them falls and everyone laughs. Once again, he steps on one of his little balls and slips on the floor. Rigolino is a very clumsy boy and asks his boss to let him use a puppet. However, his supervisor prevents him from using the toy because he often makes bad jokes about the nobles. Leah observes the scene and laughs a lot while hiding behind the well, but ends up being discovered by the red-haired boy. While they are talking, Duchess Leonora, the prince's aunt, arrives. She tells the young man that her father left him a treasure before he died, making Leah curious. Moreover, the lady asks him not to tell Tristan about it. Crowbar finds the box of pies. When he puts his hand inside, he gets a bite from the animals. The girl runs to get the box with her friends, and the other guards are alerted. They start shooting arrows at her, and she runs quickly to an exit. After climbing up a cable, the girl reaches the roof and enters a dungeon where the Lord is. The girl enters a room full of bizarre things with experiments and greenish potions with the poison symbol. Then she is startled by a skull. Afterwards, the young woman finds a portrait of Tristan together with a sorceress. A greedy man ends up stirring a pile of bones and accidentally mixing liquids. The substance begins to change color to a purplish hue. Suddenly, the hooded man enters the laboratory, but the invaders hide immediately. The Regent King tries to convince Rolando to let him rule for a while longer. At that moment, the animals start a fight with Pepita, the guy's dog. However, the girl manages to capture the dog so that it doesn't make a sound and give away their hiding place. Soon after, Tristan proposes a toast to the coronation of the new ruler, who swallows all the liquid he receives. So the demented man begins to tell the story of a little boy who dreamed of being the ruler, but had to become a sorcerer because it was his destiny. Even so, the young man changed his fate by defeating the king with poison and blaming his sorceress godmother, who was condemned. That's why she hid in the cursed forest. Nowadays, the only thing standing in the way of the sorcerer's reign is the presence of the prince, revealing the Lord's true intentions. The boy falls to the ground due to the effects of the poison he has ingested, and Pepita makes a lot of noise, making the demented man aware of Leah's presence. Faced with this situation, he takes out his sword and begins to strike her several times, who defends herself with a book. They are interrupted when the future ruler of the city begins to transform into a chicken with the body of a cat. While the wizard is distracted, the girl throws the book at his face. At that moment, Crowbar goes upstairs and sees the prince's transformation. Then he starts chasing Leah, who runs down the stairs. The guard goes downstairs, but ends up bumping into a chandelier that the girl throws to the ground. Nevertheless, he gets up and continues the chase, without realizing that the children are hiding behind a rug. Soon after, the girl offers to help the prince, but she wants her father's treasure in exchange for the service. Leah puts on a costume to disguise herself as a princess, but is surprised by Crowbar asking questions. The young woman tries to roll the guy over, and rolling him over, which was hidden in a tray of food, ends up being taken away by the servants. However, the guard notices him and runs into the main hall. The red-haired boy begins his presentation, but the audience doesn't laugh at his jokes. While everyone is distracted, Leah walks around the hall looking for Rolando. Noticing Tristan's presence, the girl asks Rigolino to present his puppet, which makes everyone pay even more attention to the show. He starts making jokes with the nobles, and they all get angry with him. The demented man finds the prince on the table, so he tries to get out of the crowd to reach him, at the same time as Crowbar is about to capture him. So Leah goes to the window and pulls the rope from the clock, tying it to the chandelier chain. His friends then gnaw on the rope, causing the chandelier to fall on Rolando, who is dragged with a dining table to the outside of the hall. Falling from the tower, Tristan notices the presence of the girl and her animals, so he advances on her, causing her to storm out of the building. The girl falls over an old structure and ends up trapped in a wheel together with Crowbar, so they drive around the city in the ungoverned vehicle until they suffer a collision. After the accident, the guard tries to capture Rolando, but Leah protects him, and Golino asks to join the girl's group, threatening to expose her true identity, so they all set off into the cursed forest to find the sorceress. Crowbar claims that he knows the way to the place, but is afraid to go there, so Leah, who is still pretending to be a princess, promises to knight him if he helps them on this mission. Along the way, the girl rides along waving to the citizens as if she were real royalty. At the same time, Rolando is distracted by a butterfly and ends up jumping off his horse. He heads towards a plantation where some farmers are cutting plants using very sharp blades, leaving everyone worried. He then falls into a basin where a man is stepping on grapes, but his friends come to his rescue. Nevertheless, the prince escapes once again and continues to chase the butterfly, getting stuck in a watermill. Rigolino observes Leah ignoring Crowbar's gift, then claims that she is becoming as selfish as a nobleman. This makes her rethink her attitudes and thank the guard for the sculpture. Tristan and his henchmen go to a horrifying place where bizarre men watch them in the darkness. He approaches a guy devouring a piece of meat. The man is a mercenary whom the king wants to hire to put an end to the group of young people. Before the guards can show them the way, they are knocked out by the bandits, so the Lord himself decides to guide them. In the dark forest, Leah decides that everyone should split up to have a better chance of finding the sorceress. Rigolino hears an ominous noise, so he starts walking backward and ends up bumping into Crowbar, who quickly turns around and strikes the poor boy, causing him to faint. Meanwhile, the girl finds footprints that lead in no direction, as if the person was flying. They don't realize that there's someone behind them in the air. Everyone turns around quickly, but the witch switches sides, and when they turn around again, they are startled by the bizarre woman. She tries to expel the children from the place as she doesn't care about the prince and even less about the city of Misty Rock, so she flees in haste. However, Leah follows the sorceress to a beautiful tree surrounded by crows. The place is the hut of the witch, who is looking at herself in the mirror and remembering the cruelties that Tristan did to her. Faced with this, she decides to help them, but they have to be quick or the prince will be like that forever. What's more, the woman needs a very special ingredient, unicorn droppings, which can only be found in the Valley of the Beast. She explains the way and tells everyone to stay out of the shadows. The teenagers and Crowbar set off on their new mission, and Rolando stays safely in the tree house. During the journey, Leah puts on a hood and the guard notices the girl's resemblance to the elf from the Misty Rock. Rigolino's puppet ends up revealing who the girl is, but the man doesn't realize that he was telling the truth. They soon reach the beast's territory where there are several destroyed flags and armor. Soon after, an animal advances against the red-haired boy, who believes he is being attacked by the beast. A shepherd appears and claims that there is no unicorn in that place, but the girl spots something colorful in the shadow of the mountain, so Crowbar offers to go to the dangerous place to collect the excrement. When the sky gets dark, horse ears appear on the shepherd's head. His body begins to increase in size, a tail also appears, and he loses consciousness, turning into a huge unicorn. The children run from the monster, but Rigolino is too close to the danger until he ends up tangling his clothes in the horn, so he is carried away by the creature. However, Leah trips over a stone and falls in front of the unicorn. Then Crowbar appears with a shield and prevents the enemy from advancing. The guard begins to deliver several blows and doesn't realize that he's hitting Rigolino. Taking advantage of the distraction, the monster regains its strength and throws them both away. Leah appears and hands her knight a weapon to distract the enemy. Then he gets on one of the sheep and goes on the attack. At the same time, the animals retrieve the unicorn droppings that were in the middle of the battlefield. However, Gulos is about to be run over, but the guard manages to divert his opponent's attention, so the girl manages to get the ingredient. Crowbar then takes a momentum and sticks his gun into the ground, making him jump up to the top of the rock where his companions are. Nevertheless, the monster slams a powerful headbutt into the stone, causing it to break loose from the ground and them to be thrown down the mountain into the cursed forest. In the witch's hut, she mixes various ingredients in her cauldron and gives the magic potion to the prince, who begins to transform into a human, but ends up without any clothes on. Soon after, Crowbar kneels to be knighted, then Leah picks up a heavy stick from the ground, but at the last second, she reveals that she's not a princess, but the misty rock elf. The guard feels hurt at having been cheated out of a treasure. Outside the hut, Tristan appears with his army, claiming to have come for the prince. He begins to threaten the group and his mercenaries shoot flaming arrows at him. Then the Regent King is about to fire a gun at Crowbar, so the girl steps forward and receives the projectile in her chest and is thrown onto the bridge. Their friends are captured and the demented man returns to the city. Arriving outside the castle, the lord tells the citizens that the sorceress has captured the prince and poisoned him. What's more, he condemns the prisoners and offers to be the new crowned king, since Rolando is no longer alive. In the forest, Leah wakes up and realizes that the arrow in her chest has hit the gift Crowbar gave her, freeing her from the wound. Trying to get off the bridge, which is about to collapse, the girl knocks over the wooden sculpture. When she tries to pick it up, she comes across a prince holding tightly to a rock. She decides to let go of her body and falls straight into the burning tree. Dodging the debris coming towards her, she manages to catch the woman's magic broom. As Rolando falls over the cliff, she flies to him and saves him, so the two of them set out to solve the following riddle. To build the kingdom, you have to find where the nobility resides. Crowbar is about to be attacked, then Leah appears, hitting the bandits with her broom, and her animals help her by hitting the mad men. The girl reveals to everyone the truth about Tristan trying to steal the prince's reign. Rolando then appears holding a gun, surprising the demented man, who distracts the citizens and flees through the only exit in the area. Soon after, Leah frees Crowbar and apologizes for deceiving him. The city's soldiers start throwing projectiles through the catapults, hitting houses and even the king's statue, which causes an uproar among the citizens. So the group of friends split up to save the city and defeat the enemies. Crowbar and Rigolino climb the wall of the fortress, while the sorceress and Leah make their way to the tower of the big boss, who makes Pepita drink a magic potion, turning the animal into a monster. The guard tricks one of the mercenaries by setting fire to his cloak, so he can open the castle gate so that the citizens can break in and attack their opponents. At the top of the wall, Rigolino destroys one of the catapults while the soldier is distracted, but the guy soon realizes his presence and chases him until the boy hides in a room. At the same time, Leah receives a nugget attack and falls from the top of the tower, but she holds onto a flag and jumps onto the nearest roof. Even so, the creature continues to spit fire everywhere, making the girl run. Rigolino hides from the guard, and something flaming falls on his puppet's head. Then he throws the piece to the ground, hitting a path of gunpowder that ignites in the same minute. The boy holds the door and manages to extinguish the blaze, but throws a bottle of water, which causes an even bigger fire. Leah ends up being ambushed, but the sorceress appears with a potion to reverse the monster's transformation. However, she receives a blow, which causes her to fall into a tent on the ground. While distracted, the girl ends up being captured by the creature. On the other hand, Crowbar realizes that his friend is in danger and asks for help from Rigolino, who is unable to move at the moment. The puppet asks to be tied to the door and prevent the guard from passing through, allowing the boy to come out from behind the door and help his friends. In the sky, the Lord threatens the young woman, but is surprised by the three animals flying on a broom, unleashing several attacks on the demented man. Meanwhile, Rigolino says goodbye to the puppet and leaves the place. At the same moment, his opponent manages to get in and an explosion occurs, causing the boy to be thrown away. Tristan manages to get rid of the creatures and Pepita sets fire to the bug's broom, removing them from the battlefield. The prince defeats a soldier and climbs the bridge, forming a ramp that Crowbar uses to fly over on a cannon. He manages to catch Leah in midair after she is thrown by the man. The two then fall on top of the king's statue, and the animals are thrown in the same place after the broom burns up. The girl hands the potion to Crowbar, but he receives a blow from the enemy, causing the liquid to spill out onto the floor. This situation makes the guard very sad, so Leah appoints him her knight. He claims he always knew she was noble at heart, so the girl discovers the location of the treasure, which is behind the heart of the statue. When the enemy is about to attack them again, the knight drops the chest from the cliff. At that moment, the demented man goes after the jewels, and the girl takes the opportunity to dip a stuffed animal into the spilled liquid. When he reached the treasure, the man realized that there were only papers inside the compartment. Then he returns to the top of the tower, attacking the boys. At that moment, Lee lures Pepita with the contaminated plush, and the creature swallows the teddy bear, turning into a normal dog. Suddenly, the statue begins to crumble, causing the group to hold on tight, but Crowbar ends up falling. At the same time, Tristan is about to be hit by the rubble, but the prince saves him from the collision and he flees with his henchmen. After the confusion, Rigolino finds Leah safe and sound, but they come across Crowbar unconscious. After receiving a hug from the girl, the guard wakes up and the group joins the rest of the citizens. After a while, the sorceress takes on apprentices, and the prince oversees the new construction work in the city. The first orphanage on the Misty Rock, an open library, and a hospital, which are the real treasures left by the last king. What do you think of this story? Could Tristan return with another evil spell to defeat the new king? Leave your comments below. See you in the next recap here on the channel. See you there.